السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. معكم حليمة دنكلاي أطل عليكم عبر قناة معارج بهذه مقابلة مع أصغر ارترية خريجة ماجستير حاصلة على الامتياز مع مرتبة الشرف، دكتورة عبد الله إدريس، لنبحر معها سويا عبر هذه اللقاء عن قصة نجاحها وكفاحها. فأهلا وسهلا ومرحبا.
السلام عليكم. Welcome to my graduation.
الدكتورة مزن هي ابنة الدكتور العصامي والأستاذ الجامعي عبد الله إدريس، وقد ولدت في جدة بالمملكة العربية السعودية في مستشفى خالد إدريس، حيث كانت والدتها حينها صيدلانية في نفس المستشفى، وهي الدكتورة كوثر عثمان دنكلاي، وكانت الحفيدة الأثيرة عند جدتها فاطمة عبد الله صايغ وجدها عثمان أحمد دنكلاي. وقد لاحظ الجميع نبوغها المبكر وقوة الحافظة لديها مثل أمها تبارك الله، لذلك حفظت على يد جدها بعض الآيات القرآنية. ثم التحقت فترة وجيزة مرحلة الروضة وهي بعمر 2 ونيف في دار المبارك التابعة لجمعية تحفيظ القرآن الكريم خيركم، مرافقة لخالتها غنية دنكلاي، حيث كانت حينها معلمة في الدار. انتقلت بعد ذلك إلى بريطانيا مع والديها، حيث دراسة والدها لمرحلة الدكتورة حينها، بينما هي درست في مانشستر إلى الصف الرابع الابتدائي، ولبست الحجاب هناك في عمر 7، وكان هذا اختيارها وقرارها. ثم استقرت في الإمارات مع والديها وأكملت فيها دراستها إلى الثانوي، وكانت متفوقة في جميع مراحلها مع النهم الشديد للاطلاع وقراءة الكتب. ثم قبلت في عدد من الجامعات البريطانية ما شاء الله، فاختارت جامعة برادفورد، واختارت مجال الصيدلة حتى نالت فيها ماجستير بدرجة امتياز مع مرتبة الشرف، وهي في عمر 22 من عمرها، لتصبح أصغر إرترية حاصلة على الماجستير.
مازن عبد الله إدريس صالح.
Welcome, Dr. Mazen.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the straightforward question. Can you tell us about your background? Who's Dr. Mazen?
Yeah, of course. So academically, so I started my education in the UK. That's when I started going to primary school, and then we moved to the UAE, where I continued and finished my education, alhamdulillah, and I came back to the UK to pursue my bachelor and master degree in pharmacy, and now I have graduated with a master of pharmacy degree and registered to be a pharmacist.
What about your family?
So I come from a small family. There's just my parents and my younger brother. And my parents have been really supportive throughout this whole journey, alhamdulillah. And they're the ones that, always pushed and encouraged me to pursue a higher education.
Okay, what's about your big family?
Alhamdulillah, I was lucky enough to spend my early childhood days with my extended side of the family. I believe that had a profound impact and a huge inspiration for me to continue my studies, and an inspiration for me to stay close to Islam. For example, my granddad from my mom's side was quite a religious man, and when I was little, he used to teach me surahs and verses where my name and my family's members' names were mentioned. So that's one of the earliest memories I have. There's also, he was also a person who cared about education and higher education, So all my aunts and uncles have graduated from university, alhamdulillah. And my uncle from my dad's side graduated from Arabic language studies. So really the environment that I grew up in was very academic based, which was really my inspiration to go on and go to university and get higher education.
According to the report, you started tahfidh at a young age. What impact had the Quran had on you?
Yeah, my parents have always tried to keep Islam and the Quran as a part of our life. Even when we moved to the UK, they put us in tahfidh classes and tried to keep the Quran in our life. And even today, you know, it has a huge impact in my life because it's not just about reading and memorizing, it's also about taking those lessons from the Quran and trying to implement them into your life, which is something I strive to do every day.
You started wearing the hijab at 7 years old. How did that come about? Or did your parents pressure you?
Yeah, so my parents, you know, my mom wears hijab, but they never pressured me. My mom never pressured me to start wearing it. There's actually a cute story about it. So it started when I was in year 3. I was in the UK, so I went to a diverse school, but there weren't really many Muslims. And so I remember going to school and seeing a girl my age, who was dark-skinned as well, and she was wearing a hijab. And I remember just being really excited and really happy that there was another Muslim girl, and she also wears hijab. And it really encouraged me to start wearing it as well. So I remember going home that same day and going to my mom and asking her to please get me a hijab. Like, I want to start wearing it. Like, please get me one. And, you know, my mom was really happy and she got me one the next day straight away. And yeah, I've been wearing it since then and I haven't taken it off.
Was it your plan to continue your education, or your parents make a decision for you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it was always in my plan and in my head that I wanted to go to university. I mean, you know, there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to go to university. You know, like growing up, I've always loved going to school. I've always enjoyed learning new things. My parents never had to remind me to do my homework or to do assignments. You know, I always took it upon myself to finish those assignments and hand them in and do everything on time. I would say that they played a big role in me coming to the UK, or specifically me studying abroad. My dad thought, or he believed, that the UK would be more suited for me in terms of like higher education. So he pushed me towards studying abroad, definitely. And so, of course, without that push, without that encouragement from both my parents, then I don't think I would have been able to complete my studies abroad. But, you know, they believed in me, and at the same time, I believed in myself and I tried to be the best version of myself.
نعم، واضح أن والديك فخوران بك ما شاء الله وبما أنجزته، فلنشاهدهما معا في حفل تخرجك.
This is my dad. Dad, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling very happy, very proud of my daughter Muzan. She's responsible, she's diligent. She scored the first class degree, master with honor quite happy today, just celebrating with her as a family together.
Thank you.
Very happy, and also very proud.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
This is my mom. How are you feeling today?
اليوم الحمد لله بنعمته تتم الصالحات. اليوم نحن كلنا مبسوطين فرحانين. مزونة اتغربت وعمرها 17 سنة، أنجزت إنجاز عظيم، جابت درجة ممتاز مع مرتبة الشرف في ماجستير الصيدلة.
And is it true that you choose the major that you're like to be like your mom? Or?
Do you know what? No, everyone thinks that. And I remember when I was deciding on my major, I didn't want to do pharmacy because I thought, oh, well, people are just going to say that I did it because my mom did it. When I was actually researching and looking into what degrees I wanted to do and what sparked my interest, it just kept going back to pharmacy. And that's when, I decided, okay, let's try pharmacy. I feel like it will be suitable for me, which alhamdulillah it was, and it turned out good.
Okay. Could you briefly explain the education system in the UK, as our audience may not be familiar with that? And how did you manage to get a master's degree in only 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, no worries. So in the UK, most bachelor degrees are 3 years. So specifically for pharmacy, it's 3 years for a bachelor and then 1 year for a master of pharmacy, and you can only practice pharmacy as a master degree. So that's 4 years, and then you do 1 year training. So that's 5 years. And what my university did was you were able to do years and then do 6 months of training, go back to university for 1 year, and then go back into training for another 6 months. So yeah, 5 years in total.
You were only 17 years when you traveled to the UK. How did you deal with that? Like living with parents and friends, and then suddenly to live alone, away from your family and parents, friends, especially let's say as between practice as a female. How did you feel?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy. I've lived with up until that moment, I had lived with my parents the whole time. So when you live with your parents, you don't feel the consequences of your actions as much. And you know that they're always going to be there to protect you and provide for you. But once I moved out, I got to experience the real adult world for the first time. And, if I hadn't experienced it at 17, it would have been at 20, 21, 22. So at some point, like, everyone has to go through it, and everyone has to, I guess, step out into the world and experience it for the first time. So I was lucky enough that I had really good friends, really good roommates, and like support around me when I was going through that transition. So it definitely wasn't easy, but because I surrounded myself with good people, it probably made it easier.
لنشاهد اثنين من أصدقائك عما تقولان عنك وعن مشاعرهما في حفل التخرج.
Assalamu alaikum. We just got our certificates, and this is my best friend Najah. Congratulations, first of all. And how are you feeling today?
Assalamu alaikum. I feel amazing, alhamdulillah. I have dreamt of this day, and here it is. just want to say congratulations as well.
Thank
we made
you.
it with
We
5
made
years. You've worked hard, you've studied, you've prayed, and alhamdulillah, you've made your parents proud. I'm so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you too.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I'm here with my friend Hasia. Why don't you tell us how you're feeling today and just your thoughts about today?
Oh yeah, I feel really happy. I feel really nice to be here with Muzen. Muzen is such a lovely girl. She's a special person to me in my heart. You know, my kids, I've got 3 kids. They are so fond of her. They love her so much. They call her Auntie Muzen. So we're so super happy for her and we're super proud of her. Of course,
are you coming to her wedding?
Person, you know. Yes, I will be coming. Definitely, I'll be there live and direct for Muzen's wedding. Yes, that's it.
Inshallah.
Yes. Are we done?
You have studied in both the Middle East and the Western country. What would you say is the main difference in the terms of education?
From what I've observed, I think in the Middle East, we tend to focus on the facts and the theory and just getting the facts right. So it's a lot of memorization and knowing what the facts are. Meanwhile, in the UK, it's more of, okay, we know the theory, how does that theory apply into practice? And so it's more about problem solving, critically analyzing, and taking that theory and seeing how it actually looks in practice.
During COVID-19, you couldn't travel to see your family. So how did you spend your vacation in the UK?
So COVID was honestly a hard time. I sort of like to split it into 3 phases because that's how I felt it during lockdown and COVID. Because when it first hit and lockdown happened, I was still in university and I still had exams and assignments to submit. So I was still stuck in the dorm rooms trying to submit everything on time and trying to work everything out and still doing university. So it was a lonely period of time because a lot of people had moved back home or traveled back to their home countries before lockdown. And so for like a long time, it was just me stuck in the dorms trying to finish all my uni work. And then the second part was after university finished, I got to form a bubble, which is what they called it, with one of my family friends down in London. So I stayed with her for a month or so, which really improved my mental health, because I sort of could be with her and we could experience lockdown together rather than when I was alone in the dorms.
قبل الحديث عن المرحلة الثالثة، نوجه الشكر هنا لصديقة والدتك وصديقة جدتك أيضا خديجة نايب، وهي أيضا حضرت حفلة تخرجك.
السلام عليكم. أنا وخديجة هنا جايين نحضر حفل تخرج مزون.
الحمد لله مرة فرحنا لها، مرة مبسوطة اللي أنا بالذات مسيحة على توريتشيتا. كلنا ومزن وعبد الله ووابل كلنا مبسوطين وفرحانين الحمد لله اليوم اللي حضرنا، وعبد الدبزاح للتمنين.
آمين. وللجميع إن شاء الله.
And then the third part was I had actually had to go back and start training because I started training in August of 2020. So I got to experience pharmacy and healthcare. And yeah, the healthcare side of things of COVID. which was a really good learning experience because obviously with lockdown, and even after lockdown was lifted, everything was still confusing and GPs were closed, and there was just a lot of issues that we had to deal with as a pharmacy that I wouldn't have got to experience if it wasn't for COVID. So it was also like a learning opportunity.
While you were at university, did you join any clubs and societies or do any volunteer work?
Yeah, and it's something that I encourage everyone to do. So when I was at university, I tried to get involved with sort of all aspects of uni. I was in the baking society for a while. I was career ambassador for a while. I was student ambassador for a while. So like taking students on tours and doing interviews for like new students. You know, I tried to like keep sports in my life. So like I did boxing for a year. I did squash. And then, yeah, and I sort of tried to volunteer every chance I got. So I remember one time we went to a primary school to conduct a science experiment, and to just like help and volunteer and help the kids. And when we got there, the person who was supposed to conduct the experiment, the lead, wasn't able to show up. So I remember one of the other leads looking towards me and was like, you do pharmacy, you know science, just here you go, the stage is yours, take over the experiment. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had not practiced or rehearsed this at all. But I was like, do you know what, let's just give the kids a good time, let's just have fun. And so I went and did the experiments and just winged the whole experiment, and the kids enjoyed it as well. So it was a good time.
Okay, good. Have you ever faced any discrimination due to your skin, color, or religion? And how did you overcome it on it?
Yeah, so luckily enough, the university that I went to was quite diverse. And so there was a lot of people from different ethnic backgrounds. And the city that I studied in was very diverse as well. So I was lucky enough that I didn't sort of experience racism and discrimination firsthand, or sort of like, you know, I can't say that I've had a moment where someone said like a racist slur to my face or anything. So I was really lucky in that aspect. But of course, you know, sometimes with racism, it's very subtle and it's hard to prove. So I would just say, you know, if you're ever in that situation, stand up for yourself, definitely, but also know that, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stronger than any sort of opportunities or discrimination that you might face. So yeah, that's just how I like to see it.
لنستمع معا ما قالته عنك خالتك وأمك الثانية المعلمة غنية دنكلاي.
السلام عليكم. إذا جينا نتكلم عن مجزوني حبيبتي، سبحان الله، من يوم ولادتها وهي صغيرة كانت يعني ارتباطها شديد بجدها وجدتها، وكنا كلنا متعلقين بيها. يعني أنا كنت قريبة جدا منها حبيبتي. فطبعا من يوم ولادتها لين 3 سنين بعد كده هم مشوا بريطانيا يعني. فكان ظاهر فيها النبوغ، كانت ذكية جدا، ما تسمع آية إلا وتحفظها طوال، يعني حافظة قوية عندها. عشان كده كان عندها استدلالات كثيرة كان محفظها الوالد باسم كل واحد من العيلة، فهي على طول تلتقط وتحفظ اسم ماما في القرآن مثلا كده، إن أعطيناك الكوثر وكده يعني. كانت ما شاء الله تبارك الله عندها نهم للقراءة، تحب القراءة كتير يعني، مليان عندها كان كتب في أوقات يعني في سنها، سواء كانت في مرحلة المتوسطة الابتدائية، أنا المراحل هذه إلا ويكونوا كل ما خرجوا يشتروا ألعاب وبلاي ستيشن ويتفرجوا على يوتيوبات، لكن كان أغلب وقتها هي ووابل يعني. ما كنت أجيهم في الإمارات كنت أشوفهم على طول سريرهم مكتبتهم كلها مليانة كتب، وعلى طول عندهم نهم للقراءة، كل ما يمشوا يخرجوا إلا ويشتروا كتاب يعني. فما شاء الله. بالإضافة لأنها لما مشت بريطانيا للتعليم العالي جامعة وكده، مع بالرغم من الضغوط اللي عليها كانت حريصة أنه تقرأ معايا قرآن عن بعد يعني، وكانت حريصة جدا، وأتمنى لها الاستمرارية على الحرص في أنه هي تقوي إيمانها، دائما تسأل عن الآخرة والحساب والجزاء، وإنه أعمالنا كلها هذه اللي بنعملها أهم شيء عندنا، كيف حنقابل ربنا، وصلواتنا وعباداتنا هي أهم مهما بلغنا من العلم واجتهدنا. كانت تحاول يعني كثير جدا مهتمة إنه هي تقوي إيمانها، الله يزيدها من فضله.
How has the university supported you?
So if people aren't familiar, so in UK universities we have a student union, and they're usually on the student side, and they try to support students in any way they can. And I actually have a story for that. When I was in second year, me and my first year flatmates were trying to move into a private accommodation, but the day we were supposed to move in, the living conditions and the living state of that building were just not up to standard. Beds were broken, the mattresses were stained, carpet was stained, like the fire alarm wasn't working, the fire doors weren't working. So it was a student union, and they really supported us. They gave us emergency accommodation that we can stay in while the issue was sorted, and they helped mediate meetings with the landlord, and when that didn't work, they helped get a lawyer, because all of us had either paid a semester or like the whole year rent for that place, and so we were trying to get our money back, which we did, alhamdulillah, after 2 years. But yeah, and they were really supportive through that time, and they also, you know, made sure that our university lecturers in university was aware of our situation, so that if we ever needed an extension on deadlines or support with examinations, that was always available to us.
Good. I'm sure a lot of young people are watching us. Is there any advice you'd like to tell them?
One thing I would say is don't be afraid of failure. You know, anyone that you look up to or anyone that you deem successful, they've all failed in life, and so it's just a part of life, and just take it as opportunities to learn something new and move on. But don't miss out on opportunities because you're afraid that it won't work out, or you're afraid that it will fail. I think when I look back and the times in life where I missed out on opportunities because I was afraid that it would fail or that it wouldn't work out, those are opportunities that I regret missing out on. So definitely just don't be afraid of failure and never give up, and keep pursuing your goals.
Okay, thank you for your advice. Let's ask you now a question in Arabic. هل تتحدثين اللغة العربية أو اللغات المحلية الإريترية؟
أيوة، أحاول أتكلم عربي، لكن لسه أحتاج تدريب، فإن شاء الله بالتدريب اللغات العربية حتتحسن.
Finally, the last question. Let's كلمة لمعارج, or let's say a word to marriage.
معارج برنامج علمي جميل للنساء، وشكرا لهذه الفرصة. أتمنى أشوف فيديوهات أكثر لأنها كلها مفيدة وممتعة.
شكرا لك دكتورة منزل، والشكر لكم موصول على طيب المتابعة. دمتم بخير، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.